Made by the indie studio Team Cherry in 2017, Hollow Knight is a beautiful Metroidvania that combines... I'm gonna stop myself right there. If you clicked on this video, you probably already know all of this, and as such, you know how honest I am being when I say this is quite literally one of the greatest games ever made. If you haven't had the immense pleasure of experiencing this game yet, well then you're in luck, because I'm going to spend the next 13 minutes or so convincing you that giving this game a shot could genuinely prove to be one of the better decisions you've ever made in your entire life. I know this intro reeks of hyperbole, but I do truly mean every word of what I'm saying. Hollow Knight is as close to a masterpiece as any game in history. And if you've already played this game, then you probably clicked on this just to hear how great the game you love truly is. Well then you're in luck too, I also fancy that particular form of self-indulging. As I said earlier before stopping myself for vaguely comedic purposes, Hollow Knight is in fact a Metroidvania made by the tiny indie studio Team Cherry. We'll talk about them a bit more later, as they deserve their flowers and much more. Inspired by games such as Zelda 2, Metroid, and Faxanadu, Hollow Knight is a 2D action-adventure game where you play as the Knight, this wonderfully cute little ghost. You travel through a world known as Hallownest, a land inhabited by bugs of varying shapes, sizes, skill sets, and hostility levels. 99% of the bugs you come across are enemies, who either ignore you until you attack them or hunt you down the second you enter their domain, but there are the occasional bugs who are friends. Oftentimes these bugs are more unique looking and stationary, though some of them do jump from place to place as you tackle their quest lines. As you spend the entirety of this game exploring the ruins of a once great kingdom infested with rabbit bugs, meeting these friends who genuinely want to aid you on your adventure, or some who are off on an adventure of their own and offer you a reprieve from the general melancholy, is just one of the many things about this game that help in the immense immersion. On top of the many standard enemies, this game boasts a ton of excellent bosses that could truly stack up against any game's roster. Some are among my favorite of all time, some are among the hardest I've ever had the pleasure of overcoming, and a few of them are even both. This game does boast a relatively difficult experience, but the game gives you plenty of tools to overcome any challenge, such as weapon upgrades, skill upgrades, and most importantly, build variety in the form of charms. Do you want to heal faster? Be able to swing your nail faster? Have a gang of little spiders attack your enemies for you? There are a total of 45 charms in this game, most of which offer wholly unique powers, and some of which even work in tandem with other charms, offering a ton of different build varieties to suit any player's needs. Many of these charms do have utility outside of battle, but the majority of them excel in combat. You're given plenty of other abilities to best any foe with as well, both in the form of skills you actually acquire or upgrade, as well as tactics you yourself learn and improve upon. The latter is particularly important, and the skill ceiling in this game is insanely high, which is a testament to how refined and polished this combat and movement system really is. Just go watch some people attempt the Coliseum of Fools, a late game combat trial, or the boss rush mode this game added as a free DLC. Yeah, this game is cheap as heck, and the developers have made several DLCs that they've given to the players for free. Also, a boss rush mode? Eat your heart out, Dark Souls. And if you've been paying close attention, you might be thinking that this game sounds a lot like everyone's favorite sadistic RPG. Funnily enough, I haven't even mentioned several other defining features of this game that it also shares with the Souls franchise, such as incredible environmental storytelling and wonderfully deep hidden lore, and a huge focus on making beautiful, intricate, well-crafted levels. Hell, Hollow Knight even has a mechanic where when you die, you have to go retrieve your shade from the spot you died. It's no secret that this game uses a lot of the same mechanics that FromSoft and other Souls-like studios use, so much so that many will even argue that Hollow Knight itself is a Souls-like. But as a massive fan of FromSoft and Souls-like games, trust me when I say this game is absolutely its own thing and twists most every shared mechanic to masterfully suit this wonderful game and its world. I mentioned earlier that this game was a Metroidvania, which is a genre that shares elements from the games Metroid and Castlevania, and is usually categorized by areas of the game being locked off by item and ability upgrades. Stumble across a wall that's too high to jump up? We'll make note of it. In a few hours, you'll find either the double jump ability or the one that lets you scale up walls. Then you can go back to enter and explore the new area. The entire map is incredibly interconnected, and you may be unable to enter an area through one way just to circumvent it and enter from one of several other ways. It is mostly an open world, and there are an insane amount of ways to progress through the game, but this system allows for the necessary exploration and the thrilling sense of finding an item and going, with a steady flow of new areas, new bosses, new items, and new abilities, this game is constantly growing and evolving to the point where you're always eager to keep playing. There are a ton of tinier aspects or little mechanics that make this game work so well, and I could honestly make a whole video on just that. But these are just a few that I wanted to highlight. Your heals are tied to your spells, so you either have to choose between healing and being safe from a hit or two, or dealing heavy damage. Making these split decision moments in combat are thrilling, and you'll come across areas or bosses where healing frequently is a necessity, or moments where you can show off how good you've gotten at the game's movement mechanics and dance around all potential incoming damage, meaning you can unleash massive amounts of your own damage in the form of your spells. Most often though, you're going to be towing the line between a combination of both, figuring out which way you want to best utilize your limited soul. Oh, and it regenerates when you hit enemies, by the way, so if you want to heal or do more damage, you're going to have to be aggressive. Rivaling the Titan Dark Souls itself, Hollow Knight boasts one of the best checkpoints in all of gaming in terms of vibes with their benches. Beautiful atmospheric music, which we'll also touch on later. Oh my god, how haven't we talked about the music yet? Lovely visuals, and they're placed and spaced out wonderfully for the perfect moment to breathe at the perfect time. There are two elements that are sort of separated from the main gameplay, being being the White Palace and the Colosseum of Fools, that focus entirely on platforming and combat respectively. Both are huge chunks of content fit for either type of player. I myself prefer the combat, and the final challenge in the Colosseum of Fools provides a ridiculously hard and enjoyable challenge that I've sunk an ungodly amount of hours into. But the movement and platforming in this game is so clean and satisfying that I've spent many hours progressing through the White Palace as well, and I always complete it on every new playthrough. There isn't voice acting in the traditional sense, but NPCs and enemies are all given a voice unique to them, and they're just fantastic.
Let's put up puppies.
Manta, chocolate, azura.
Bapanada.
In fact, the sound design in this game is excellent. There are certain breakable walls, and when you hit them, they sound distinct from a regular wall. It's actually pretty criminal that I left out the audio from this game until this late in the video, because a ton of Hollow Knight fans would cite the music and sounds as the single greatest thing about this game. Hollow Knight places a large emphasis on feelings of loneliness and hopelessness. Although there are triumphant and bombastic themes for bosses and lighthearted whimsical themes for certain areas, the sound design constantly brings attention to how truly alone you are throughout your journey, with things like your own footsteps and the wind being so prominent. The bosses of Hollow Knight are just fantastic, and it's as good a roster as any game I've ever played. The music bangs and has the perfect volume in conjunction with the SFX, which, as I've said, are particularly crisp and well crafted in this game. Bosses are visually distinct with impeccable atmosphere and unique, engaging movesets that require different strategies to solve. The way this game utilizes its platforming and general movement within its combat is amazing. It might sneakily be one of the very best aspects of the overall combat system. Some of these bosses are discovered after deep exploration, some are sudden and catch you off guard, and some have lore and story implications. Hollow Knight really does have it all, and they can be hard as shit too. A relatively unique thing here is that the bosses don't have any sort of visible health bar, which on the surface I am definitely opposed to. But Hollow Knight's bosses usually feature either a move they do at distinct health so you can track your progress that way, or even outright phase transitions to help mark your progress. Boss fights can become such a dance that, for me, winning attempts usually feature me locking in and not really wanting to be distracted by things like a health bar. Just dancing the dance of life until either I drop or they do. There is one major aspect I want to talk about before we end this video, and it's one I've intentionally left until now, though I've actually been showing it off this entire time. The areas. Oh goodness, the areas. There's about 20 main locations, many of which have sprawling sub-locations, and nearly all of them are truly fantastic. I'm a huge fan of ranking videos on YouTube, and this is one of those categories where you'll see a whole host of different areas being considered some people's favorite and least favorite. By like people's third or fourth worst area, they're usually singing their praises far more than they're critiquing it. Each area has a completely new soundtrack to accompany your exploration that fits the area perfectly. The game does a really neat thing where oftentimes if you're going from X to Y, the aesthetic and background of the area will shift to include aspects of the area you're about to enter. Sometimes you can go into it right away, and sometimes it serves to make the new area even more exciting for when you get the necessary item to come back and enter it. An excellent example of this map's interconnectivity I spoke about earlier can be found in the game's central city, the City of Tears. It's a mid-game area, but the moment you enter it, it is pretty clear that it has a ton of importance. You can enter it through several avenues, but most of these methods will require you to leave and come back, making this area one you're waiting to get to for quite some time. It's always raining here, which fits the area's vibe and aesthetic, and lots of games would be content with leaving it at that. It's fantasy, certain places can just have certain weather at all times. But of course, Hollow Knight is not most games, and you do in fact get a lovely in-universe reason farther down the game's line when you finally visit the area directly above the City of Tears, the Blue Lake. The lake's water seeps down through the ground, creating the rain in the City of Tears, and it even travels through the city's pipes and drains into the area directly below the City of Tears, being the royal waterways. Without ever explicitly telling the player any of this, you can surmise it for yourself just by looking at your map and seeing those areas stacked atop one another. It's a beautiful aha moment that the game doesn't spoon-feed you, but adds so much to the world's immersion. Another point for the world's immersion is the map system, which, yeah, it's a map of the world. You press the button and it opens. But also it's so much more. For starters, you physically pull out a map and open it. You, the knight. It's cute as shit, and it just fits the vibe that you're exploring this area and now taking a moment to regain your bearings and see what's where. The map for a certain section can only be unlocked by not only traveling to that location, but then you also have to track down the map maker, Cornifer, and purchase it from him. He hums a little tune when you're close to help you track him down, and yeah, this is just the best piece of audio from anything ever. Once the map for the area is obtained, the only sections actually visible and drawn in detail are the spots you visited. So the more you explore, the more precise and helpful your overall map becomes. Are you guys understanding just how polished this game is? How refined, how well loved, how beautifully labored over? There are only a few things in life of which I am incapable of being hyperbolic towards. The cuteness of my dog. How cute the Mean Girls meme. How many times I press down B and smash when I'm using Kirby. How fucking charming the priest is in Fleabag. How satisfying the parry is in Bloodborne. How many demons I kill per playthrough of Doom. How many better choices for King there were than Bran. Oh, and also how polished this game is. A lot of people will make remarks that this game has as much content and polish as any AAA game, and I think that is such a massive understatement. Content-wise, you could really never ask for more, regardless of the price. A 30-hour game that takes upwards of 65 hours to 100% with immense replay value. It's got a boss rush mode that can easily consume just as much of your time as the whole playthrough itself. A different game mode known as Steel Soul where you have to restart if you die a single time. There's the platforming section we spoke about earlier, the White Palace, which you can undergo if you want to master this game's mechanics and movements. There are even achievements for beating the game in under 5 hours, contributing to the beloved and very grueling Platinum Trophy. My first playthrough that I did not even come close to 100%ing took me 88 hours. Because this is one of those games, like a Souls game, where it's really hard to factor in how long someone might die on a particular boss, or how long someone might spend turning over every leaf in a certain area. How Long to Beat says Bloodborne takes 33 hours to finish. Well, guess what? On my first playthrough, Orphan of Kos took me 40 hours alone, idiot, so what now? The difficulty making for certain sections taking a different amount of time for everybody, and this game requiring a lot of backtracking and finding specific, well-hidden spots to progress, means it's a super tricky game to hurl an estimate for how long it might take someone. So runtime-wise, content-wise, charge $100 and dare anyone to claim it's not worth it. But polish, love, care, and attention put into this world and the things that inhabit it, you could never name a price. Well, technically you can, because it can be all yours for, well, roughly $15. Prices may vary and it goes on sale and stuff a lot, but you're never gonna pay more than $20 for this goddamn piece of magic. The company who made this game, Team Cherry, is a very small indie studio based out of Australia consisting of only 3 people. Ari Gibson and William Pellin have been with the company since the start and still are, while David Causey worked on the game but left just before the DLC was released. Jack Vine is now the 3rd member of Team Cherry, but there is one additional person worth mentioning, Christopher Larkin, the man responsible for the simply superb soundtrack. If you're at all familiar with Hollow Knight, then you'll know about the infamously tumultuous development of its sequel, Silksong. However, as fate would have it, not only did we recently receive confirmation that this game does in fact exist and is not a part of our collective subconscious implanted by anti-Hollow Knight sleeper agents, but also that it would be releasing soon. Very soon. And you'd be forgiven for thinking I started this video in the wake of the huge announcement, but I actually started this video many months ago as something to sort of casually work on between videos. I would have loved to have been able to justify dropping everything to finish this video, say, sometime last week as soon as I found out about the news, but unfortunately I'm just too small of a channel at this point and I couldn't quite justify putting my entire life on hold then and there. If you're interested, however, you could help change that by subscribing. As I said, I'm a smaller channel, and every subscription really helps towards my goal of eventually turning this into a genuine gig that generates me some sort of revenue. There has never been a better time to get into the wonderful world of Hallownest. Please do yourself a favor and just give it a try. Turn the volume up, immerse yourself in its world and atmosphere, and start exploring. I sincerely hope you enjoy. Thank you very much for watching. Comment literally anything Hollow Knight related and I promise I'll reply. There are a few things I like more than discussing this game. Also feel free to comment anything at all. It helps the algorithm and it's fun to engage. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching and maybe I'll see you next time. Take care.